Meanwhile, the Rivers State House of Assembly has issued an arrest warrant for the chairman of the State Independent Electoral Commission, Justice Adolphus Enebeli, for failing to honor the lawmakers' invitation. The Assembly had issued a 72-hour ultimatum to the RSIEC chairman and his commissioners to give account of last year's local government election. Instead, Justice Enebeli went to court to restrain the legislators. Meanwhile, 3 out of the 8 commissioners of the state's electoral umpire had tendered their resignation over the weekend following the invitation.
We've taken enough from you, Mr. Speaker. I support Enebeli should be arrested. It's high time we arrested him. Thank you very much.
Distinguished colleagues, those for 24. Those against, nil. Abstention, nil. By these voting honorable members, this House has therefore resolved that Justice Enebeli and other commissioners who failed to appear before the 10th Rivers State House of Assembly will now be compelled by this House via a warrant issued under the seal of the Speaker to the Nigeria Police to bring them here to answer questions, and this will be done immediately so that the needful can happen. Rivers people can know what has been happening to their funds and what has been happening in the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission. Clerk, what next do we have?
Well, Jide Ologun, a constitutional lawyer, joins me in the studio to unpack the ongoing political situation in Rivers State. Thank you so much for making the time to show up tonight in the studio.
You're welcome.
Is Governor Fubara in a political quagmire? I'm asking this because of the Supreme Court's ruling in favor of the Amaluwe-led House, which makes them now in the majority and now have the power for impeachment if they so do choose.
Absolutely. And the battle has gone on for a long time, political, legal, and now he's been put in a tight corner by the final decision of the Supreme Court. Since 1963, when we became a republic, Supreme Court has remained the highest court in the land. And it is in trying to manage the very tight situation that he's inviting the erstwhile members of the House of Assembly that have now been reinstated by the decision of the Supreme Court for a conference to carve a way forward. And it appears that he has been ignored, in pursuit of the political battles, and it's a very tight one for him.
Do you think the Amaluwe-led House is overreacting? I mean, throw back to the events of the last 2-3 months and way back. Do you think they're overreacting? Do you think they're doing too much?
For politicians, you cannot claim that they're overreacting. It's like now having your pound of flesh. But again, when you put the interest of the citizens on the front burner, then you want to go the way of dialogue, because at the end of the day, that is what will bring development. Because as we speak right now, the tension is high in Rivers State. Some are apprehensive that as part of fighting back, the Matthew Amewule-led House of Assembly may want to impeach the governor, which initially also led to all the battles we have seen, and that some are threatening to attack the pipelines again if that happens. And the tension is quite high, so we expect that the political stakeholders and the leadership in Rivers State will come in to ensure that the ongoing conflict is resolved in the interest of the development of the state.
How do you interpret the ruling of the Supreme Court that said that there is no evidence, legal evidence whatsoever, to support the alleged defection of the 26 lawmakers, or shall I say 27, from the PDP to the APC? Because the story, if you flip back a couple of pages into this crisis, was that they've defected to the APC. And, the back and forth about if there's no problem in the party, you're not allowed to defect. And, it goes on and on. Now, we can't say, I mean, do we have proof that these members actually said they had defected to the APC? And what is the implication of that right now on the Rivers State political crisis? Are they members of the PDP now? Either way, they have the numbers, they can still impeach the governor, but I want to hear what you have to say.
By virtue of the decision, they are members of the PDP. And actually, when I heard about the decision, I felt like I was thrown back into the classroom in law school that I left in 1989, because there had been precedent in the past touching on this case of defection. You have the case of Abegunde and the Ondo State House of Assembly, where it was clearly stated that you stand to lose your seat if the trouble in the party is not a crack from top to bottom. And there are other judicial decisions, even coming from the Supreme Court. But this time around, it's quite sensitive. Something happened in the course of this case, which is some parties had to withdraw some of the processes before the court. And if you go by Section 131 of the Evidence Act, you need to present facts to the court and prove those facts. Don't forget that at a point, even the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces invited Wike and Fubara to a meeting, and some of the resolutions is that some matters will be withdrawn. And the Supreme Court focused on what is presented, you see, which I'm not here to fault. But now, I can only say that by virtue of Section 4 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, the National Assembly and the House of Assembly at the state level are to make laws for the peace, orderliness, and good government in Nigeria. By virtue of Section 5, the President is endowed with the executive power to manage the country. And by virtue of Section 6, the judiciary to interpret. So interpretation has come now from the judiciary. And I must say that different lawyers have different interpretations and reactions to this decision of the Supreme Court. But by and large, the Supreme Court cannot override itself. So perhaps in a subsequent, you know, you will still have the case of Imo State that has refused to go away. Several questions that people are asking. But when it comes to litigation, it's about how you drive your case, really.
Absolutely, absolutely. And now, with nowhere for Fubara to take the case to, do you foresee a political solution to this impasse? I mean, political analysts are calling Governor Fubara's meeting an extension of an olive branch. You've also alluded to
Exactly, absolutely. And that's why I'm calling on the stakeholders, because, you see, in some battles, you actually don't have winners, particularly when you consider national development, because now the fear is still there, which is about impeachment. But I can let us know, by virtue of Section 188 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, impeaching a governor takes about 8 steps. So it's not an easy thing like that. And with the threats coming from some stakeholders, I doubt if this nation is prepared to have any turmoil in Rivers State right now, even though Rivers State is reckoned to be a state that has been used to political storms, you know, from years past. So I would be appealing to the stakeholders, particularly when he's extending the olive branch, that let's see where we can go, because basically, like I said, many are still not comfortable with this issue of defection and the constitutional provisions, you see, except now that some procedural issues have been brought in. So at the end of the day, if this issue is not well managed, some are even apprehensive that may lead to declaring the state of emergency, because some schools of thought are also on the page that the political party where Wike is now active, even though he's a member of PDP, is interested in taking over Rivers State. In fact, the chairman of APC has spoken to Fubara to either resign or be impeached. So you find all these.
That's a bit messy, because it was the chieftain that you're talking about, Tochara, is it? I'm mixing the name. Yes, I'm mixing the name up a little bit. I beg your pardon. But he's a chieftain, and the chairman, the Rivers State APC chairman, has called him out to say, listen, that's not what we're about. It's not your place to start ringing the bell of impeachment for these people. It's a constitutional case, and we, quite frankly, we're dissociating ourselves from that statement. But it's a very tricky issue, and we're going to be keeping an eye on it as it evolves. And as you've rightly mentioned, there is a lot at stake.
Exactly.
The earlier this is resolved, the better. Jide Ologun,
And it can be resolved.
Yeah,
It can be.
It's politics. You'll be surprised what we will hear tomorrow. Jide Ologun, constitutional lawyer, thank you so much for coming into the studio to speak to us tonight.
Thank you too.
Yeah.
God bless Nigeria.